Hello and welcome to the Identity Podcast. This is Caleb, one of your co-hosts for the Identity Podcast, and I'm so excited for this week's show as we round off the month of March. It's crazy to think that it's already almost April. Wow. Well, it's been a wonderful journey here throughout the show since we started in August, but also as we continue down this path talking about environmentalism and sustainability. And today we have a very, very special guest on the show. And for me personally, I think it's going to be a great episode as we talk about eco-friendly, right? We talk about saving the earth, and we talk about how we can save the planet, and how we can do this in a friendly manner and in a safe manner and everything. And I think that is really special. And so I'm very excited to welcome this guest. But don't forget that you're watching and listening to the Identity Podcast presented by Find Your ID NYC. Don't forget to go and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all those platforms out there at the Identity Podcast. Go ahead and give us a follow and check out our podcast, which is available on all streaming platforms. Once again, we are live every single Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time for the Identity Podcast. But let's go ahead and get into our show as I introduce our very special guest this week. I'm very grateful to be able to welcome her in, and I think that this is going to be a wonderful episode. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, Henri Mackenzie. Hello, Henri. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming on. Very excited to talk about your journey and eco-friendly and your different identities as you're still kind of discovering those.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in kind of quite a sort of transition at the moment. So I'm going through kind of different identities. But essentially I'm from the UK. I live in a little village in Buckinghamshire, which is quite near Oxford. I'm an eco-conscious mum to a 3-year-old daughter. And I spent literally like over a decade working for PR agencies in London, mostly kind of technology. And it was good fun. It was very hard work, quite stressful at times. And now I work part-time for a marketing agency called Branch Road for also B2B tech sector. But a lot sort of changed for me, I think, when my daughter Penny was born about 3.5 years ago. So I think having her and started to really make me think differently. And I started to become kind of much more eco-conscious as I, began raising her. It really opened my eyes to the fact that, her generation will really suffer if we don't start making more changes to help protect the planet. And that, global warming was going to be a really, really big problem for her generation and beyond. And I've also got a couple of friends who are very eco-conscious, and also my parents as well. After Penny was born, they became, very sort of planet aware and started making lots of changes to their lifestyle to lower their carbon footprint. So I think it created like this sort of mindset shift across like our whole family. And so we started to try and live a kind of more eco-friendly and adopt a much more kind of sustainable lifestyle.
That's beautiful. That's really awesome. And I think that's also great because that's exactly what the world needs to be doing right now is being more eco-conscious. And I like that term a lot, that phrase you coined. And so I think how exactly was it the birth of your daughter that kind of, I guess, created that moment like, hey, I need to think about this, I need to change? Or was there kind of thoughts beforehand, and then with the birth of your daughter, you're like, this is exactly what I need to do?
I think I was always kind of quite eco-aware, but it was definitely the birth of my daughter made you suddenly like really aware of, her generation and like what state the planet would be for her, and like the generation following her. So I think she was the very sort of pivotal moment that really created that sort of behavior change and across me and my family.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's great to know that, especially with the birth of your daughter, your parents also kind of started becoming eco-aware and eco-conscious of different things. I think right now, if you take a mindset of the United States, we're at the point where a lot of people in the younger generations are very conscious of such and are very aware. It's more the older generations that have more of a difficulty, I guess, to kind of grasp the concept that we need to be eco-aware and eco-conscious, and that this is really a danger for younger generations and those to come. So do you feel that people such in your parents' generation and older generations, such as in England, that they are educated well on this matter? Or do you feel like just in recent years it's kind of been that way?
Um, I think that previously, across all generations, it was quite niche to be eco-friendly. You were seen more of as like an eco geek, if you like, and the perception is that it is expensive to live more sustainably. Like, you know, sustainable, more sort of eco-friendly products are more expensive, and that actually it's cheaper just to buy plastic stuff. But actually, you know, that isn't actually the reality, whereby, you know, it's not just about matter of buying an eco-friendly alternative. So like something, you know, plastic free in the bathroom, like say shampoo or conditioner bars. It's actually a matter of taking more of a kind of minimalist approach to your lifestyle, and thinking about the term zero waste. I think it's quite hard to get to zero waste, but you know, certainly a lot less waste. So, you know, do you need to buy so much stuff? Don't throw away all your food. Can you compost some of your food leftovers, and then you can actually turn that into food for your garden? Can you grow some of your own fruit and veg? And it's just sort of thinking a bit smarter like that. And maybe we don't need to buy so many products with so much plastic packaging. And I think in the UK, in terms of like the generation, certainly the younger generation, you know, are becoming very, very in tune with, you know, eco-friendly issues and the need to protect our planet. Older generation, I think it depends where. I mean, certainly in our village community, it is quite eco-friendly. There is a fair bit of disposable income, so people can afford to say maybe get rid of their oil and gas boilers and replace them with renewable energy systems like ground source heat pumps, which are actually expensive up front, but then there's a UK government subsidiary to subsidise you, so you can get you know, sort of 2/3 of the money back over about 7 years, but you still need the upfront money. I think if you don't have, in some cases, that sort of extra income, then maybe it isn't so much a priority. But then I think it's education as well, because I think some people aren't aware that actually it's just small changes every day that you can make that can really make a difference. So it's about, you know, can you go to the farmer's market and buy your fruit and veg, you know, loose, as opposed to go to the supermarket where there's so much plastic packaging? Making sure you always take your reusable shopping bags out with you. You don't, you know, you avoid buying plastic bags. Maybe it's not eating so much red meat or any meat at all. Maybe you take, and I'm not a vegan or even a vegetarian or a flexitarian, but I don't really eat red meat, and I don't eat as much meat. But can you cut down on your meat consumption? Can you cut down on your dairy consumption? I think it's just like these little changes every day. And I think there's still a big education piece, certainly in the UK, where people need to understand it's not a matter of just a complete change to your lifestyle and it's super expensive. It's just a kind of mindset behavior shift. It's just lots of little changes every day.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, though. And thank you for explaining that, because there's definitely, I noticed similarities and differences between just the UK and in the US, and there's definitely differences all across the globe as well. And one great thing that all of our listeners and viewers have been able to be exposed to throughout this series that we've been focusing on the Identity Podcast is we've had so many different guests across the globe. We've had guests from Canada, we've had different guests from the UK, we've had guests from throughout India, we've had guests throughout the US as well, and that's really important to be able to talk about this in different forms of Europe as well, and it's important to be able to talk about this on any level, and also to be able to talk about this with anyone from anywhere, right, all across the globe. And so I think you mentioned something about zero waste, and with zero waste, we actually talked about this on a couple episodes ago with Garbage Gang, which is an organization based out of Canada. And they actually, what they do is they go and pick up trash, and they try to teach people of how they can be sustainable and how to reduce their waste and everything. But what I loved is Cassandra Carmelina, the founder of that organization. She told us, we try to strive to be, zero waste, right? We try, but it's like you can't, there's really no such thing, especially in today's society. So the biggest thing you can do is just be smart, and you need to, reduce your waste, but you need to be smart. And she's like, you can, by being smart, you can reduce your waste, right? And so that's something that I felt like you were hinting at there, and I love being able to see those overlapping concepts a little bit and everything on the show. But I think that's really really great, though, to know that there is society, a part of society that is trying to instill this in the youth and trying to have this. I do feel like in the United States, we don't necessarily have that as much. It's certainly lackluster at times. I feel like you have a group of people that are really trying to advocate for something, and then you have another group of people that simply just do not care. Obviously, that goes in all communities, but definitely here as well. But kind of with your journey and with this eco-friendly journey, what are you kind of doing now as far as being eco-friendly and raising awareness?
So I started an eco lifestyle blog last year called Eco Friendly Henry, and also run an Instagram account. But actually, the Instagram account sort of overtaken the blog, and the Instagram account is also Eco Friendly Henry. And I post sort of eco swaps, product reviews, interview some of the eco community. But I think what's really interesting is actually talking to the community on a regular basis. So I started a weekly meetup last October called Sustainable Saturday Meetup, and it goes, basically my post goes live every Saturday, and then I get about 200 people from around the globe who join up. So you introduce yourself in comments and then just chat to who you want. And we've got a whole mixture from eco brands, eco retailers, eco influencers. So that could be from moms to dads to, I've heard, scientists, journalists, lots of students, and get quite a few US students as well, who are all on their sustainable journey, and they share their tips, what they're up to. You got people who specialize in different areas, like say fashion, slow fashion. Maybe someone else is really into gardening and composting, and so a lot of people kind of zone in on sort of different things, and you can learn so much and connect with all sorts of different people. And we've had brands and retailers sell products to people, or retailers find new products at the meetup. And then it's a great opportunity to grow their accounts with like-minded eco-conscious people. But it's just really interesting to discuss topics and see where kind of the mindset is. And then actually we took it one step further last Friday, and went onto Clubhouse. And so it was I had set up an account before, but I'd actually never been on Clubhouse or spoken at a debate. So I co-hosted one with a handful of eco-conscious people from the community, and we did a room discussing how we can make sustainability more successful. And we got a mixture of kind of brands, eco-influencers from UK, US, Canada, and Ghana. So it was like a real mix. And we were debated for about an hour, and it was really interesting, people's different point of view. People were really sort of articulate. And I love the fact on Clubhouse, it's quite kind of casual as well. It's not like it's not like speaking at an event. It's much more kind of, conversation's really natural. And so that was super interesting. And actually I've had a lot of requests to have it as a regular thing. So now looking at doing a monthly debate series on Clubhouse, maybe on a Saturday as well, to extend like the meetup. There's people who want to speak their point of view as well as write it. And there's a lot of people with a lot to say. And just having that global perspective as well is super interesting, to just see how, things are quite different in different countries.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that that's really cool, and I'll definitely check that out because we for the Identity podcast, we've been doing a lot of stereo podcasts and different like clubhouse stuff. So we're trying to get into that too because that's kind of the next big thing. But no, I think that's a really great way, as you said, to get a good and better global perspective, but also I think to let voices be heard, right? Because that way you're not just writing about it, but you're also being able to speak about it, especially in a time now with the pandemic where we're not really able to go out and see everyone all the time and be able to have events all the time. And so that's definitely a big thing. But I also think it's a great idea because you're able to you're able to expand what your perception on this and your knowledge to so many people that have never come across your path before that now you are linked to because of this amazing platform, right? And I think I think that's great, and I think it's awesome just to know exactly what you are doing, trying to do your part and trying to raise awareness and everything to to be eco-conscious, eco-aware, eco-friendly, and just being able to spread your knowledge and what you are doing and what others are doing. And I love that. And so throughout this journey, as we talk about your journey on the show, throughout this, what exactly are you hoping to, I guess, right now, with your thought at the moment, with the possibility of doing more kind of clubhouse discussions and debates and everything, and growing your blog and your Instagram account and everything, are you seeing this as an opportunity to do more with it, or are you just kind of going to take it a day by day thing?
I think there's definitely an opportunity to do more. Um, I don't have like a fully baked plan as such. I've kind of taking opportunities as they come with kind of a vision to maybe be a kind of thought leader in this space. And I certainly it's such an evolving space. It's a new sector. We're all learning. I'm certainly not an expert. I know bits about kind of what I do, but I love creating like a platform for others to come together and hosting or co-hosting debates to enable others to kind of connect and voice their point of view and learn from others. So I think it's just kind of evolving that, and I'll just have to see where I end up. Basically, I mean, I used to be like a really detail orientated planner. Do you know what I over planned for years for clients, for myself, and you just put too much work into over planning, and actually it doesn't pay off. You have to, and maybe it's just the need to control too much, and maybe you don't feel confident in situations, you have to over plan, but actually it doesn't work. You plan enough, and then actually sometimes you need to react in the moment and look and listen and see opportunities and grasp them and respond. And that's so important. And I think I've kicked my over planning habit. And I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm listening, and I'm learning, and I'll see where we end up, what works. It's finding something that works, basically what other people like, and then just building on it and continuing to create a model that other people like, want to be involved, etc. So I'll have to come back to you like next year and see where I'm at.
Sounds great. And of course, it was just kind of a on the cusp or question, just kind of wanting to know what you were kind of thinking. But I think that's good. I unfortunately am also an overplanner, and I'm also trying to combat that a little bit. I've gotten better over the past month. It was kind of my New Year's resolution of sorts, to see if I could do a little bit better. Unfortunately, I'm still carrying my planner everywhere I go, so we'll get there.
Small steps.
very, very small steps. But no, I think that's great, and I think it's okay to not necessarily have a full laid out plan of where exactly you're going to go. And right now, with everything going on in the world, it's hard to look towards the future a whole lot. It's hard to say, oh, 5 years from now, this is what might happen, but it's also hard to say what's going to happen in a month or two from now. And
Absolutely.
yeah, something I've really noticed, and something that I'm proud of myself for since the pandemic began, is just realizing that we have to kind of take it and life day by day, right?
Yeah.
One day at a time, because if we don't, we can get lost, and also we're maybe over planning, or simply we're just going to we're not really going to be able to find our footing, and that's the biggest thing. And so I think right now we just have to take it one day at a time, and that goes for the pandemic, that goes for life in general, I think, but it also really goes for being eco-conscious and trying to save the earth, save the planet, and going green and stuff like that. Now you mentioned that you are a flexitarian, and
Yes. So I do eat burgers every now and again, but not very often.
That is okay. I actually know a lot of people that are flexitarian, and I feel like that's definitely been something that's becoming a little bit more common in the recent year, or the past year or so. I know myself and my co-host Tarek are both vegan and vegetarians, respectively, and so we definitely have that same lifestyle there. But what kind of inspired you to go flexitarian?
Again, just being a bit more responsible with the planet, and it's also actually not that good to eat too much like red meat either. So it's not particularly good for you, too much dairy.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of cutting back on eating, meat and dairy is just much better in terms of like reducing your carbon footprint. But I have to say, I can't find a vegan cheese that's nice. So I can't. I'm struggling with vegan cheese. So I eat quite a lot of vegan food. Like we've got loads. The supermarkets here have got a really good range in like vegan food, like vegan burgers, vegan sausages. But I don't know, the vegan cheese is not great.
It is definitely difficult. I've also had a very hard time. I did find one brand that was okay. I'm not sure if it is available in the UK, but it's called Chow, CHAO is how
Mhm.
that's pronounced. It's not awful. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's not awful. So that's kind of a very tiny endorsement, but
Oh God. Anyone who can vent an awesome vegan cheese onto an absolute winner.
we'll give you a shout out on the show if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have a clue where to start, but
Me either. I've been trying for the past few years. I've been trying to find a good vegan cheese, and it's definitely difficult. Sometimes you just kind of have to stomach it and be like, "This is great."
yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, that's definitely been something. I've also noticed, like vegan hot dogs are um, not very great either. But that's just a mean. That's definitely an Americanized thing, American food. But no, I think something I've noticed since the pandemic. I've had a lot more people in my circle start to be more health conscious, and they've definitely started to eat maybe a vegetarian, vegan diet, or even a flexitarian diet. And I think it is important that we eat healthy, but it's also important to be able to eat eco consciously as well. I think, and I know I saw a documentary a while ago, and it's one of my favorites of all time, and I definitely resonate with this. But a statistic in it talked about how if everyone in the world went vegetarian within 6 months, we would be able to reduce the carbon footprint simply from farming and factory farming by like 45%, like within 6 months. Like that's
wow,
crazy.
that's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, it really is huge. And they said it now take another 6 months, a year, and we continue to stay vegetarian, just vegetarian, not even vegan, just vegetarian,
Mm.
it would be closer to 75, if not more. and that's really important to me if we take that mindset. But no, I really love everything that you've had to tell about your journey, and just being able to discover your identity thus far has been amazing. But as we kind of continue throughout the show, don't forget that you're watching and listening to the Identity Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Caleb, and it's an honor to have Henri with me here. As we continue, though, kind of along this journey, and as you said at the beginning of the show, you're still kind of trying to figure out your identities and which identity you might be going for, or you may have on today. But definitely your kind of children's book was kind of a journey that you never really thought you were going to go down, right?
Yes, exactly. So that sort of came about by accident, really. So I had never written a children's book before. I'd only ever written content for clients, so articles, etc. And it basically all started out when my daughter was born, and she developed this really weird condition called segmental hemangioma, which is like this sort of overgrowth of blood vessels. It looks like just a really nasty rash all over her face. But as like a newborn, it was quite kind of terrifying. And we ended up at Great Ormond Street Hospital. So that's in London. It's like the biggest in the UK. It's all the top specialists there. And we ended up there, and eventually she was diagnosed with this condition and put on this medication. But unfortunately, it disrupted her sleep patterns. So we were up. I mean, obviously, newborns don't sleep through the night anyway, but she was on the medication until she was nearly 2. And so that meant pretty much sleepless nights for 2 years. So we were up, a couple of times each night with her, trying to get her back to sleep. And I used to tell her stories about her cats. So she has these cats called Millie and Tilly. Who've got like really big, funny, googly eyes. And I just used to make up lots of stories about them, just trying to get her back to sleep. And her godmother Sam made this remark once, just said, "Oh, you lot and your googly-eyed cats." And I was like, "Oh, that's a really good title for a book, Googly-Eyed Cats." And then as my maternity leave progressed, I just gradually started thinking maybe I should write these up, because I was reading a lot of these stories anyway, and I really liked the kind of rhyming style. And so when Penny was asleep, when my parents were looking after her when we went to stay, I just started writing them up. And I wrote a few, but then one actually, was going better. And I put it down for a bit and then came back to it sort of a few months later. And then at the end of my maternity leave, I basically had, the sort of basis of not a bad story. And I got my mum to edit it, and she's a bit of a kind of grammar expert and very detail orientated, and went through and kind of made some edits. And then I thought, wow, I've got this story, might as well just ping it off to some publishers to see what happens. And so I didn't know anything about publishers. So I went onto Google and researched, publishers who take manuscripts from new authors, and found about 5 independent publishers where you can submit your manuscripts online. And my mum was like, wow, J.K. Rowling got rejected however many times. I'm like, hardly J.K. Rowling. Just so you know, you'll probably get rejected by everyone. And who listens to their parents, right? I didn't. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. So whacked it off. And then about a month or so later, I got a contract offer come back from the first one, which was Austin Macaulay, which is who I signed with. So I was super surprised. And then actually I got another offer about a month later, and then shortly after I've got another letter from somebody just saying, "You've been shortlisted to our final review round, we'll come back to you." So I was really surprised. I thought, okay, so this story must be like okay. And then since then I can't illustrate. I mean, I tried, but I'm terrible at drawing. So I I sort of mocked up the front cover of the book in kind of my slightly basic drawing style, and then worked with their in-house illustrator, the publisher's in-house illustrator, to create about 12 different illustrations for the book and the front cover. And it took a while to kind of get the right like identity for the googly eye cats. And then there's also a dog in as well, but I based the dog actually on our neighbour's dog, which is like a Bernese Mountain Dog, so that was a bit easier. But then eventually ended up with a book, and then it came out in January this year, and they sent me, Aston Macaulay sent me a whole box of books, which are like all my comp copies. And I was like, good heavens, I've written a book. And there I had it, a box of real books. So I was sort of, quite surprised. And then since then, I've just been doing a lot of publicity for it. So using my PR and marketing skills, which are obviously super handy. Not done book PR before, but obviously, transferable skills and all that. So been sort of doing a lot of regional and local media interviews and a lot of work with kind of mummy and author bloggers and Instagrammers to place reviews, etc. And it still continues. But also the book, actually, I decided to give half the profits to Great Ormond Street as well, for because Penny's still an outpatient there, so she's off medication, but she'll have an operation, I think, later this year, and then sort of when she's a bit older. So I thought I'll see if I can raise money for them as well. And it meant that I could collaborate with Great Ormond Street in terms of they would help share a lot of my social posts as well. And their reach is obviously much bigger than mine.
Well, that's just to say, I think everything that you've said in your journey here is truly inspirational and absolutely amazing. And I really do wish the best for your daughter. And I love, I remember when you first told us about the book and everything, I looked it up a little bit. Obviously I haven't read it, but I did Google it, and I was able to find a little bit more about it. And I think it's amazing. And I love stories like that. It just kind of, it's like, oh, I'm telling, bedtime stories, or I'm just telling stories to my child. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, I wrote a book. and I think it's absolutely just incredible to know that, hey, my name's on something. Like, this is a book, and I have a box of them, and I have to every single day, I'm doing publicity for this book and everything, and I think it's incredible. I'm also not an artist at all, so I would be in the same boat as you as far as having the in-house illustrator having to do it for me. But I think it's really, really neat and just really beautiful. But I love that during this process, of course, during this process of once you had the contract, what was kind of your thoughts? What was going on in your head when you were the book was being ready to eventually be published and everything?
Well, I think when I first got the contract, I was just in absolute shock. Basically, it came through on my birthday as well, on 26th of February, which was a pretty nice present to receive. But I did not expect it at all. I think the process took quite a long time because I think the pandemic delayed things. So there was kind of quite a gap, I think, between starting and finishing. And I certainly in my day job, we work to quite much tighter deadlines, so I wasn't used to things taking like a year. But then we in these uncertain times where you've got to be more flexible. But I mean, this is really me throwing the over planning playbook out the window, where I'm literally going with the flow. I mean, I've sort of probably got a vague vision of where I'd like to be. But you just got to take one step at a time, maybe think about what's the right steps as you go, but just sort of listening, watching, meeting people, taking opportunities as they come, etc., and not having that really kind of over planned path which you must take and achieve this by this goal must be met, otherwise you have failed, and just throwing that playbook out the window. I think that was probably a key turning point.
I'm sure. I definitely am sure. When kind of the process start for you? Such as when did you write the book, and when did you said it was just a few months after you had responded, right? About 6 months or so after you had finally received a notification about a contract and everything?
Yeah, so let's see, my daughter was born in August 2017. So I probably verbally started the book, like sort of late in 2017. And then I was on maternity leave till August 2018. So what I did is started writing it probably early 2018 and then put it down, picked it up, and then went back to work. And then I think in August 2018, and then I think by about December, I thought, oh, hang on, maybe I should do something. That book, it's still like sitting there. Probably went did a final edit and then sent it off over Christmas holidays, I think, probably, or early January, something like that. And then they came back about a month later. So I put it, I think, it's only sort of 600 words, but actually it's hard. It's actually harder, I think, getting a narrative into 600 words. It's simple, but yeah, it's got to have, a bit of drama with a resolution. You've got to be able to kind of portray your protagonist and whoever the villain or the other character is in a way, and try and make it work within 600 words. So actually I think it's quite harder. So I did quite a lot of editing, and I found that the initial draft was quite quick, but it's just the allowing sort of reflection time, I think, between the edits was really important. And then, there was like maybe 2 lines where I like, oh, the rhyming's a little bit forced, I'm not sure. I put it down, came back a couple of weeks later, and I was like, no, it's kind of cut. That's a better word. So I think that really helped.
Yeah, I definitely am sure. To be honest, I feel like for a book that's a decently fast process, even with the pandemic and everything. But kind of a question that I'm curious about, and a kind of a side question. Do you read the book often to your daughter?
So I read it a few times, but they read it to at nursery. So I gifted a copy to her nursery, so she's preschool, and they read it to her and her friends. And then I think some of her friends have got it because their mums bought it. So I it's funny, I read it, I'm like, Penny, this is you, and this is Millie and Tilly, and she's like, oh, Millie and Tilly, and she's sort of getting it, kind of, a bit surprised. So yeah, we still read it. I think we kind of rotate it with the other books.
Oh, there's so many books out there. So,
Yeah.
but what does it make you feel to have the nursery be able to read it, and then to also know that you can, get your daughter ready for bed and be able to read her this book, and how's that kind of make you feel?
Oh, it feels amazing. You just feel like you've accomplished something, and it's very fulfilling, I think, to have created something that it helps like 2 to 5 year olds learn. The themes are kind of kindness, creativity, and kind of courageousness, but just helping them to learn themes like that and entertain them. And then, what is so heartwarming actually is when I get, I've had loads of messages from friends or people who've bought the book and their children really loved it. So there's been feedback like suddenly someone wanted cats because there are cats in the book. There's been requests for cats, and then someone wanted a dog. There's been kind of questions about whether their cats go out at night and cause all sorts of problems and get up to no good. So it's just really nice to hear feedback actually directly from the children, like via their parents. And then I was getting questions about when's the next one coming out. I have started it, and the third one as well, but I need to finish it. Or both of them. So there definitely seems to be appetite for a couple more. I think that these characters seem to resonate with the kids, and they're sort of strong enough and cheeky and naughty enough actually that kids want to know what's next.
That's awesome. So the books are surrounding Millie and Tilly again?
Yes, they will be. So I think I started this book as well before I really became sort of really eco-conscious, and actually I the second and third, looking at weaving in an environmental theme into them, and I think that's really important. And I think I might try and do that as much as I can into further children's books that I write, because I think it's so important. And we were talking about this on Clubhouse actually in our debate about the how to make sustainability more accessible, and really it's education and starting at grassroots. So right from 3 years old, the importance and what is recycling, for example. The importance of not throwing everything away, mending your clothes where you can, reusing things, even like gardening. Like little kids love gardening, so growing fruit and veg, what is composting, etc. So there's so much they can learn at such an early age, I think, and that's really, really important to do. So I'm gonna, I think, try and see if Millie and Tilly can teach, in between their adventures, teach children something about environmental and eco-friendly, I think.
I love that. I think that's a great idea, and you probably said the most important thing that has ever been said on the show, and that's educating the youth, especially on being eco-conscious and on trying to be sustainable. Is the biggest thing is being able to educate, right? Education. And so I think that's huge, and it's really good to know that there are people out there that want to do that, want to be sustainable, want to educate the youth especially, but also want to be able to include it in different medias, different mediums, such as a children's book. To be honest, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I love that idea. Taking this book and adding to it, having more stories for it that you can create and have the kids be able to fall in love with them over and over again, but also at the same time being able to teach them stuff. And that's the thing about children's books. They can be silly and they're fun and they're cute, but they can be very educational as well. And I think that's absolutely awesome. Sorry, I'm very thrilled to hear that. I think that's actually really, really neat. And have you kind of thought out? Obviously, I understand if you can't say anything because you are still in the process. But have you thought about what exactly you may tie in, kind of being environmentally conscious and friendly into the books?
I think recycling might be quite a good one, actually. In one of the books, maybe the other one. They're still being written at the moment, so it's kind of weird actually, because again, no planning really. I just write them and then kind of have a vague idea of what's going to happen, but just sort of start the story and see where it ends up, with a vague idea of what themes might get in. But I think recycling would be a good one.
I agree. I think, and to be honest, that's kind of the first step, being able to reduce, reuse, recycle, and all the different R's on the list. But no, I think that's really great. I really do. And learning about your journey and everything that you are doing, have done, will do, and so on and so forth. But before we do it, I did want to touch on once more, just kind of your journey has really been inspired by being a mother. And from what I've gathered and from what you've also said on the show and via our bunches of emails, but how do you feel that motherhood has kind of led you to where you are today, and also inspired you to do more?
So I think that, and it's not uncommon actually, a lot of people experience the same thing. So you become a mother, you change your outlook, it just completely changes. So I focus on very much about protecting my daughter and her, her generation, in terms of helping to minimize climate change. But I think I very much also feel that, and actually I read Glennon Doyle's book Untamed recently as well, which just absolutely sums it up, where it's really focused on stop pleasing and start living. And that's actually the mindset shift that I changed as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about, stop going through the motions and doing what you think you should be doing, and actually start living and do what you feel passionate about. I'm like, what, what are the things that actually you feel you can make a difference, and what are the important things to work on? So, you know, climate change is horrific. This is a disaster, and we need more and more people to really get on board and think kind of more eco-consciously and make more sustainable changes in their life. And I think it is led by just lots of kind of normal people like myself doing it. And I think motherhood has obviously been the catalyst for that. In terms of writing children's books, that sort of happened by accident, but I found out I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I am a child myself, with a very juvenile sense of humor at times. I really enjoy it. I love living in the sort of childlike, like fantasy world, and then writing books about it. And I really felt like I was, starting to live and like feeling more fulfilled, doing things that I'm more kind of passionate about. So, and then when I read Glennon Doyle's book, I was like, gosh, she sums it up so well. And she's obviously a highly successful author. She's an activist. She's a thought leader. Maybe she's my role model here. Obviously, she writes on different subjects. I think her Together Rising is more about helping families and the communities, or at least very focused on kind of women as well and families. But I just think she's a fantastic role model. So I follow her on Instagram as well. And I think she has been huge inspiration, as well as Brené Brown as well. I read all her books. Well, I read Rising Strong and Daring Greatly recently, and her concept about the power of vulnerability and wholehearted living as well, it just really resonated. And I think it's just so important. Stop over planning, stop going through the motions, and really start living. And you're, as a mother, you're a role model to your child. So you want the best for them, but you want to be the right role model for them as well. So I hope that answers your question in a few ways.
Most certainly. In fact, I think it did even more than that, and I love that. Thank you for that answer. And thank you, Henri, for coming onto the show. It's been an honor to be able to discover your identity and to be able to learn of your journey. And I tell you, it's quite fascinating. It really is. I've been thrilled the entire time, and I've really been invested in hearing all that you've been able to do, what you hope to do, and everything. And I guess as we start to wrap up here, besides the two hopeful books and then kind of this series that you are creating, is there anything else that you are hoping to do in the next few months, maybe year, different upcoming plans that you have?
Oh my gosh. Probably just finish the two books, build up in my Instagram community. I think probably take the Sustainable Saturday to Clubhouse and start, really building out the debate series there and see how that goes. I'm really thinking about some more very sort of poignant thought leadership subjects that really resonate with the eco community and sort of spark some really good debates about how we help to make sustainability more accessible. How do we educate people, especially at grassroots level, etc. That's probably it, and just we'll see how it goes, see what comes up. You never know.
You really never know. But I thank you. Thank you for that, and I wish you the best of luck with everything. And I'll definitely be keeping tabs, and I'll check out on Clubhouse and see if I can't listen to your debates every once in a while.
Join, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. I have a lot to say when it comes to the environment, but I will most certainly do that. But thank you, Henri, for coming on the show. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you. And thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks again, Henry. It's been great to be able to talk about all kinds of things, especially eco-friendly matters, eco-friendly manners. Just everything under the sun with that. And so, once again, you've been listening and watching the Identity Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Caleb, along with a wonderful guest that we've had on the show, Henri Mackenzie. So thank you so much again. It's been great. Don't forget that you can like us on all social media platforms at the Identity Podcast. Go ahead and follow us there on Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, all that stuff. We're on there. And also check us out on all streaming platforms. We're available on all streaming platforms such as Spotify and Pandora and even Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to check out our show every single Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time at the Identity Podcast. It's great to always be here every single week. We thank you, as always, for listening and watching the show. And we'll catch you next week. Thank you.
Hey folks, welcome. I'm Ivy Rivera, Psychic Medium. This is episode number 2 of Living in Truth Short Stories, Kundalini versus Downloads, Side Effects. The first thing we need to understand is the difference between a download and Kundalini. Receiving a download, check out this class to learn more, typically comes directly through your crown chakra at the top of your head. This can happen when you're meditating. It can happen at any time when you're awake, really, but typically it happens when you're asleep. A download is a set of instructions or information given directly to you because it pertains to work that you came to Earth to do. Now, to better understand this work, you can check out a life contract reading with me at any time. Life contract is the agreement that you signed on to before you came to Earth. It's full of information like certain relationships that you're going to have, lessons that you're supposed to learn, work that you're supposed to do, and everything in it is on a deadline. Your ancestors, your guides, your angels, your higher mind, the universe, everyone is working collectively to make sure that you finish what is within that contract, but also that you meet those deadlines. A download prepares you to be able to do the work that you came here to do. Now, if you receive a download while you're awake, it would be pretty obvious. However, most of us get these at night. And so when we wake up, we would notice that our ears are plugged or that there's a weird vibrating, a frequency like a tinnitus in the ears. You might feel like your vision is off, translucent lines crossing your vision, or discombobulated feeling like you're somehow not centered. You may also feel like your spirit is not really connecting with your body. You can't get rooted and grounded. Then we see more severe side effects, like the next 3 weeks typically would involve a lot of changes with your energy level, your appetite, your sleep patterns. A lot of people stop eating. They may actually lose some weight. Many stop sleeping their traditional 8 hours. So we not only see less sleep, we also see an increase in energy. This typically comes along with some feelings of vibrating or restless leg syndrome, a general sense of racing thoughts or being sort of emotional. And this is often misdiagnosed as manic depression or having a manic episode. Now, I can't prescribe or diagnose, so I do recommend that you see your physician if you have these issues, but these are the typical side effects of receiving a download. But in general, you feel great about everything. Even though it would look very much like a manic episode, you don't have all the negative side effects. You're not heavy or depressive. You have an invigoration about you and a great sense of adventure for the life that you are about to create for yourself. You may have really wild, vivid dreams. Your dreams have gone from being sort of normal subconscious dreaming to prophetic or astral travel. You may feel as though you're building something and you are racing the time clock, because a lot of times you are. You may feel like it's energy bouncing from your crown chakra all the way down to your feet, back up and down, almost like a ping pong game going on inside you. Now, downloads can also come with some interesting information that really doesn't get utilized for quite some time. For example, I had a friend who received a download and afterward was able to recite the Bible cover to cover, even though he had never studied the Bible before. Well, this came into play several years later when he had to do some very intense spiritual work. Typically, the side effects from a download are going to last maybe 3 weeks to 2 months. People get downloads at different rates. It really depends on your life contract, but those who are here to do light work do seem to receive them quite a lot more than the average person. Kundalini, on the other hand, is a detoxing process due to an awakening. An awakening can occur for many reasons. Maybe you had to go under anesthesia and have a tooth removed, or you went through a terrible divorce, you had a car accident, you lost a family member, you got pregnant and had a baby. There are many reasons that this can occur, triggering a Kundalini. So anything that you've been holding on to, whether it be from a past life, it be from your childhood, it be unresolved issues, energy in your chakras that has been blocking your growth and development, that will get washed away. Every new level, there's a new devil. Every time the bus stops, somebody's got to get off. In order for another door to open, another door has to shut. And that's what Kundalini is. It's a detoxing process. We talk about this a lot at Reiki training. Check out this class to learn more. When I give you an attunement, I'm essentially triggering a Kundalini to help you release anything that is blocking the Reiki energy from flowing through you so that you can be a more powerful healer. But when it happens naturally, it can be quite shocking. So you would notice a lot of physical side effects, and these are pretty instantaneous. These would include things like nasal drainage. So it can almost seem like you have a chronic cold or allergies or some type of a sinus problem. You may have flu-like symptoms, but notice that no one else around you is sick. Headaches, aches and pains throughout the body that come and go. A lot of people experience a detox with their mental and emotional state. So it's sort of like doing shadow work at warped speed. You may cry a lot. You may process a lot of thoughts that you had never wanted to address before. It's like a floodgate. It just sort of comes over you and you want to let it go. A lot of women who went through menopause may find that they're fertile again and their periods come back. If you've been struggling with pregnancy or infertility, you may end up pregnant at that point. We would definitely see a likeness to a download side effect in regards to the ear ringing, the tinnitus, the feeling of pressure in the ears, but it tends to be the left and then the right and sometimes both. It switches up, and we definitely see an increase in intuitive intelligence, psychic, mediumistic, and empathic across the board. Kundalini can last anywhere from 1 to 3 months. I find that with a lot of people, because they're fighting it, they can drag out the process so that it'll sort of let up and then it will come back repeatedly. There are a lot of similarities between the two, including the emotional, mental, and physical side effects that make you feel like you're really going through some kind of dramatic change. But the distinguishing factor is why it happens. A download is information, direction about your life contract, and a Kundalini is allowing for energy to flow through you so that you can better heal yourself and others. So let's do a recap. A download is a reception of information and direction about your life contract, whereas Kundalini is a detox so that your energy field is more wide open to receive and channel healing energy. If you want to see a full list of mini classes here on YouTube, you can go to the playlist. I hope this helped clear up some of your questions. Keep them coming. Please post below for any future episodes you would like to see. Thanks so much for tuning in.